Good morning, haters. It's me, Jamie Taylor, and my good pal, Kendall Grooms,
Hey, good morning.
with a brand new episode of I Hate Real Estate, which is, I guess, we hate real estate today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
It's good to see you.
You too.
So today's episode is about a Snoopy salesperson. We're going to figure out, we don't really know all these answers, but we're going to figure out what happened and who knew about it, and then, you know, what they do about it from there.
Yeah.
Okay, get us in
You
session.
may gavel us in.
Yep. And here we go. So I was snooping online at some recent, maybe it's like an older complaint. And I saw that when you usually read the first sentence saying like, the real estate salesperson's license is hereby immediately revoked, you know that there's going to be something juicy
Catches your attention.
it. Yeah. You're just like, catches your attention. So I looked through this and I'm like, what could possibly do this? And you know me, I'm very well versed in legal jargon. So it's going to be in
the squiggly symbol.
Squiggly line section, just in case you guys want to follow along. Squiggly line section 17. What's the squiggly line?
It's a section.
They can't use the word section in law school either because it's law school.
It's the little S with the like circle in the middle.
It looks like a double S, like a brand. Yeah. So 17-42-311, subsection A, numbers 11 and 12.
You said 11 and 13.
11 and 13. You're right. 11 and 13. See how fast?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, here we go. Snoopy salesperson enters complainant's unoccupied home and is videotaped. This is a few years ago, too. Mm-hmm. There probably wasn't audio, but videotaped. Searching through, quote, private areas of their, end quote, unoccupied home. That's gross.
It is gross.
And I know you've sold property before, so let's dive right in.
I still have questions about this, about,
Of course you have
if it's unoccupied, was there furniture there, or is this some totally different area of,
Oh, yeah. Well, it had to have stuff in it because he's definitely looking through private areas. So it's like, but I'm curious, does this mean the bathroom? Does this mean he's videotaped or he's videotaped going into the bathroom or the closet, or you know what I mean? Uh-huh. And then here's the other thing. Did she like record this, or they record it and then send it in, or did they just file a complaint immediately? Did they call? That's awkward. Hey, Can you get out of my house right now? Yeah. So what would you do if someone came to you and said, I was caught snooping through my client's unoccupied home? Because let's get really down to it. This guy lost his license just like that. And so that's something that will happen if you violate the public's trust in that manner. So let's break it down to what happened, who knew about it, and how do you get involved?
Well, that's what 11 and 13 say. We looked at them before we went on the air here.
Nuh-uh, we have them memorized all day, every day.
Yeah. 11 says that this person was unworthy or incompetent to act as a real estate broker or salesperson in such a manner as to safeguard the interests of the public.
Which is true, because I don't want you in my private area of my house.
And then we decided 13 was boring because it's a catch-all, but it still has some buzzwords in it. It says any other conduct, whether of the same or a different character from that specified in this section, which constitutes improper, fraudulent, or dishonest dealing.
Which, I mean, it is a catch-all, but at the end of the day, it really kind of gives you a blanket to throw on, hey, you're not allowed to go through people's private belongings when they're not home. Right. But the reason I wanted to jump right into this kind of subject, too, is like, it doesn't happen that much, so it's like when something like that happens, it's like, kind of, let's discuss what to do from here. But then also, for me, this brought up a million other questions. When you're listing a house, and I know from experience telling somebody, hey, put your private stuff away. Like make sure that you have, especially if you have guns or jewelry or family things that mean a lot to you, always lock them up, put them away, put them in a safe.
Yeah, take them with you if you're just going and while someone's looking at the house, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing that gets me about this too is I doubt that this is like a greenhouse growing something thing, because the person probably wouldn't have turned them in if that's what they found, because if this is long enough ago, that wasn't legal at this point. So I doubt it's something like that. You know, we talked about it, somebody's like special basement.
Yeah, well, we were talking about their smelly basement.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about is like, so think about this though as a person. If you haven't sold a home before, everybody gets to see all your stuff. So it's not just the bedrooms and bathrooms they're looking at. They're like, man, what college did you graduate? And I can't tell you how many times I've seen like, that's another thing, like their degrees are on the wall, their private stuff. Ever since I became a licensed agent, I'm like, I hide everything in my house. Yeah. You walk in my house, you have no idea who lives there. It's just very plain.
I guess as a side, if you go sell your house, go minimalistic, minimize everything, move everything, take it out. But that's not a part of this. But.
Well, my favorite buzzword though lately has been neutral gray, because of the whole, like, let's just paint everything
agreeable gray.
Agreeable gray, excuse me. what did I call it?
Neutral gray.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Agreeable. That's much better. It's been ordered. It's agreeable gray. But
so go ahead.
So getting back to it though, from a camera standpoint, is it also really kind of fair for sellers to have cameras on people walking through their house all day? Because I guess you're saying yes, surveillance.
Absolutely.
But I'm trying to look at your house.
I think that's expected. The new, the seller's property disclosure actually has a question about if you have cameras monitoring the property that you have to disclose now.
So make sure you fill that out correctly so that you have disclosed that you are videotaping people. Also, it might convey with the sale. So then you might also end up with a sweet surveillance system. So that being said, how does this guy ever come back, or does he? Like, can you write a letter? Can you try to, go through some sort of period of time and then come back and reapply for your license? I mean, just out of curiosity, if a revocation occurs.
So on the podcast last week, we talked about like the different options. Right. If someone came to me with this situation, really the whole lawsuit thing is out. It is a waste of money. There's not going to be any real monetary recovery, damages, nothing along those lines.
Well, how do you put a price on you violated my privacy? You can't really put a price on you violated my privacy.
You can't, and that's why it's difficult to do. It's probably not anything that a lawyer would take without something being stolen, something being taken, thing like that.
And don't call me to try and value that.
But the other two recourses are great. The other two recourses are the Ethics Commission, the Real Estate Association Ethics Board, and the other one is the Real Estate Commission. And this one ended up at the Real Estate Commission.
It did.
And as long as what the person found was not some illegal activity you were partaking in, that would be the way to go, and that's what they did, it looks like.
Well, and it puts in the situation where the problem gets solved, because someone that's doing that kind of stuff really shouldn't be practicing real estate. There's probably somewhere else that they should be, some other kind of job that they should be in. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to the way that this is handled, it's an immediate revocation. So it's something like, if you violate the public's trust, it's over. We're not going to have a long hearing. We're not going to talk about it. It literally says formal hearing, that in unanimous, you know what I mean? There was no questions. Everyone said, can't do this. It also hurts the industry, because it makes people think about, oh my gosh, my real estate agent was snooping through my stuff. I mean, think about the salacious story that this makes. And then they feel violated, but then also all the attention is drawn to the possibility of this happening to you, which scares consumers and then makes them go back the for sale by owner direction. And Lord knows we don't want them to do that.
No, not just from a real estate professional standpoint, but just from a getting taken advantage of standpoint.
Well, and tell me, because you're a pretty techie guy. You're kind of techie. For those of you who don't know, Kendall is like really technologically savvy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lawyer and IT professional.
You're a lawyer. He's actually, you are an IT professional, but when I think about the wiring upgrades in your home, that's when I think, sorry, that's personal, but when I think about the way you like your audio and all that stuff to be, it's great, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder, with surveillance, to what level do you really need to protect yourself as a seller? Like, you need it inside, you need it outside. We're a one-party state, right? So you can record without telling somebody. If you didn't have a seller property disclosure and someone was in your house, it really would be irrelevant,
That's right.
Okay. So, and they couldn't so what if you caught, oh man, my head is spinning about so many things that could go wrong here. Because the other thing is, if somebody found something illegal going on, like you're talking about, and then what if they were the ones who made a phone call, and then the seller was like, you can't call the police and bring them to my house over this thing I'm doing while you're just showing my property?
I think you probably could.
Really? Just because
It depends on the relationship that you have. If this is your agent.
What if you're just Snoopy sales guy and you're snooping through the stuff, and then what if I see you sneaking in there, and he's like, oh yeah, well, I found your sneaky basement, calling the cops. Who wins?
Well, that's when you go to the real estate commission and turn them in for what they've done. On the criminal side, I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't do criminal law.
Well, and here's the thing. So this brings up a good point, though, as far as when you're selling your home, like we talked about, having a Snoopy salesperson is not a great situation. But how do you vet an agent before you're in the situation, as far as has this ever happened before? Can you just go up and look up their ethical record? I've never tried to do that before.
I think you can call the Realtors Association. There's a lady named Amy Hare at the Realtors Association that handles all the ethics stuff. You can contact her. I think we both know her.
Yeah,
she's a very nice lady.
Yeah, and she's very well known and does a really good job.
She is very well known and does a good job with that side of it. And then the Real Estate Commission, all the findings are public. You can look agents up on the Real Estate Commission website. There's multiple people you can call at the Real Estate Commission as well.
Well, I try to
There's
go back in time.
There's a whole complaints division over there that does all the investigation of complaints and the judicial board and things like that.
Yeah, it's a super involved process. I'm really good at legal jargon, as you remember, so it's one of those things. I think at the end of the day, though, what I appreciate about it is that not only do we have a lot of regulation, and we have the ability to regulate and take people out that really shouldn't be in the industry that are, not doing what they're supposed to. But I think really what gets me about this is that a violation of the public's trust does need to be handled immediately. And I think it's a situation where you as a consumer, if you even think a little bit of that is going on, go file a complaint, because there will be an investigation and we can do whatever we can to right the situation. Again, don't want that to come back on realtors as a whole, or anybody else, appraisers, inspectors, anyone else that goes in your house, because that's the ultimate feeling for me of like, I'll never use another professional if they come in my house and violate me in that way.
Yep.
So I didn't find anything when I listed your house.
No.
I didn't snoop though. The only thing I can admit to is playing with the laundry chute.
Yeah, we did do that. That was the house we bought though.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's the one thing that, like, even when you weren't there, I think I threw a few things down it during the inspection.
Some toys and some towels and stuff.
I did. But anyway, so when you get convicted of misconduct, like we talked about, you have options for complaining. We talked about that. But what about the agent?
The remedy for the agent. Yeah. I'm honestly not sure about if that agent has any kind of right of redemption of the license at any point in time in the future, the ability to reapply for it. I wouldn't think so. People make mistakes. Like, maybe that's a little bit different. I'm not saying there's a big difference.
This is a character thing. I'm talking about like like there's people I've seen lose their license over like, oh, I didn't know and I did this poorly, and then they get suspended or they lose their license, and then maybe they could come back and petition. Like, I learned this or I got more education. I mean,
those usually have to usually have to do with some kind of mistake of I took somebody's earnest money that they had put up, or some money I was supposed to be holding in escrow and I didn't put it in the trust account in the right spot, or I didn't get my principal broker to sign off on this deal before we close. Before we started acting, there's things like that where you get you may get a long-term suspension, or you may get a termination of the license with the right to come back later and petition once you understand. There'd probably be some additional education course requirements, things like that.
Yeah.
But I think with this kind of conduct,
there's no education for how to not be Snoopy.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe that there's ever going to be another license issue to this person. So, and that being said, this is one of those things you'll have to rule on it in just a minute. Okay. Since they already ruled on it. This one's easy. Yeah. And I've got another one that's right behind it I want to talk about that has a little bit more, it's definitely an intentionally bad situation, but it's got a little more money involved. So we'll talk about that next. But when it comes to this sneaky guy and this ruling, I don't think he's ever going to get a license again, but I also want to disclose that I go way back in time to look at some of this stuff, because I don't want to bring up anything that's currently going on. I don't want any fellow people in the industry to be called into question when they're going through the difficulty of dealing with a complaint. Now, this, again, is a different nature. And the reason I wanted to bring it up first is because it is a little bit salacious, and we're just now getting the show out onto people's eyes and want them to kind of have a little bit of fun with it and see kind of that there are some crazy things that happen in real estate. And it's one of those I hate real estate moments, in the sense that we can break down what happened to the guy. We can break down the process behind selling your home or buying a home and how to act appropriately, especially knowing you're under surveillance, but even hopefully not under surveillance, acting appropriately. So this one was easy, a no-brainer. It was a unanimous decision. So before we go to the next complaint, I'm going to need you to formally take us out. Yeah, this guy's not getting another license in Arkansas again. Ever. Ruled. This is Kendall's favorite part. He likes hitting it. I want you to say something wrong so I can bang it. I'm not going to do that because then you won't want to work. You lose credibility. I know. I don't want to lose my credibility. Okay. So, but it is funny because one of the things today when you asked me this morning, so when are we releasing? I was thinking in my head like, so I'm going to start talking about it and everybody's going to know. But this one's out of the area. It's great. The big thing is that I hate real estate. We've already talked about it. It's such a catchy name, but you guys have no idea what goes on. What goes on out here is the wild, wild west. Am I right? There are scenarios where it is way out there, unimaginable circumstances that occur in real estate transactions. Literally cannot believe. I've read some this morning where it's like, lender runs off with the money. Like, I just can't. Had that one happen. Have you? Yeah. Okay, what about guy doesn't show up to closing, refuses to sign documents? Happens all the time. Oh, it does. Interesting. So here we go. Parker and we write 2 or 3 letters a month to people that refuse to close transactions. Somebody calls us. Ooh, this is the same because it's squiggly line 1742-311 again, but it's subsection A 1 and 3 and 13 the catch-all. Okay. So one's a good one. One means they obtained a license by means of fraud, misrepresentation, or concealment, so they weren't truthful in their application. You said 3 was the other one? And that's the reason why. They had previously been convicted of a felony. Or a crime involving violence, fraud, dishonesty, untruthfulness, or untrustworthiness, regardless of whether the imposition of a sentence has been deferred or suspended.
Turpitude.
Yeah.
Moral turpitude. Okay, so here's what happened. So homeboy had a bad situation arise. And whenever he became a real estate salesperson, he was like, I don't want to tell them, because if I tell them, they won't give me a license. As opposed to, which I can say, there are times you can write and the commission will look at everything and they'll take into consideration and they'll be like, wow, this guy's really turned it around. He's got a great track record ever since that mistake. And, you know, boop. I don't know that. I'm assuming that they would do that, but I've never. There
may be a requirement that you can't be a felon and be licensed. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, I know when you apply for the bar exam, they do that. There's a rigorous questionnaire on the bar exam where you have to talk about anything that may or may not have happened and give reasons and what occurred. And they let people get licensed all the time that have past issues.
And there's different circumstances.
Yeah.
Like if you have a failure to appear for a bunch of traffic tickets versus you murdered somebody, probably two different things that you're dealing with. So this guy in particular had
But if you lie to them,
you're not getting a license.
You're not getting a license.
That's the big thing. I mean, that's the lesson to take away from it. I feel like, and this is just because I've been in situations with the commission as well, where I'm explaining something like, if you just tell them everything up front, goes back to that rule of real estate.
We tell this to clients. We tell this to clients all the time. Deposition preparation. You've given a deposition that I was in before. Mm-hmm. Deposition preparation 101 is do not lie. Never. I don't care if they ask you a question and the answer is horrible for you. It's way worse to lie about it because I can't fix it. There is no cure for the lie.
That comes back to the credibility, which it was on the first thing too. And we've had discussions too about there are times that people experience things in their life where they make mistakes or they do the wrong thing. And if they write everything down and they put it out there and they disclose, the buyer might still buy the house, even if it's in a flood zone. Yeah. But if you don't tell me and I don't know that there's a possible remedy, then I'm out. I don't want anything to do with your crazy flooded house. Anyways, unrelated. But this being said,
I like that you've been deprived of the ability to perform an adequate inspection.
I like that too.
Yes.
Deprived. And here's the thing. Similarly, this person kind of did not deprive the public and the commission of the ability to determine whether or not he was able to make proper decisions as a licensee based on previous history and behavior since then. And so, like, of course, I'm of the opinion he should have, like, wrote them a letter. And that's what I'm going to tell you. Like, if you're my attorney, I would come to you as the client and be like, hey, I really want to apply for this license. This is what's going on. What would you do? I'm sure that that's probably not what happened. But then it looks like what happened from there is that somebody, I don't know, I guess somebody would have called. He applied for a broker's license. That's what happened. He was already an agent.
Yeah, and that I was just about to say, there are people like this that slip through the cracks all the time because there's counties that it's not really easily searchable where you can go find out if someone's been convicted of a crime.
Right.
It's getting easier with everything going online now, but depending on how far back you went, there may not have even been the court connector, the e-file system, or any of that stuff in place, and it may be difficult for the commission to verify someone's application for a license is accurate or not for those things.
And this is pretty far back. So, I mean, it would have been far enough back, and it's in a different area, so I don't know if that county has the same stuff that we do. But I would say that what they did is, and this is where I think that it must not have been too horrible, because instead of revoking his license, they suspended him for 12 months and then said, you can't be a broker, but you can remain an agent. You just have to be suspended for 12 months, and then you can come back.
Probably had a good history as an agent.
Right. And probably would have, if fully disclosed, had a different result, don't you think?
Yeah.
You think it would be easier just to come up?
Probably would have never gotten to that point.
I don't think so either, because he could have just like, hey, I'm about to apply for my broker's license. Here's the situation I was in. What would you do if you were me? Can I move forward? And then even if they decided the same thing, it wouldn't look like, you wouldn't have that number, squiggly line associated with your...
Yep. And this person, you never know. There's always different circumstances, two sides to every story. The person could have had like an expungement done of their criminal record, and the real estate commission may not care if you have that or not. There may still be a disclosure requirement of anything that's happened in the past.
Right. We're all just like houses. We have disclosures we have to make.
Yep.
So here's the thing. How do you really, I mean, financially, because if you get wronged by somebody in this fashion, like we talked about, you can't really quantify that. So what is other than getting them out of the business or having them suspended, there really is no recourse for you unless you go through a personal attorney and spend the money to go through a personal lawsuit.
Except for the one limited remedy of the Real Estate Commission Recovery Fund.
Yeah, but
that has to be
a number.
That has to be compensatory damages. That means it has to be you're out this much money for something.
You have to break my private stuff before.
Exactly. You have to steal something along those lines. Yes.
Has stuff like that's where I've never seen one like that. But I was looking up cases earlier and I was thinking, I wonder, because when I saw the thing about searching through areas, I know that there has to be times where people have had loss associated.
Oh yeah, we had one at the Real Estate Commission one time where the agent, it was a property down in Saline County, and there's an area where there's really, the soil moves a lot. It's that like red clay stuff underneath, and there's a lot of movement. And the agent had been told by the previous owners, the listing agent, that there was a problem with the soil conditions, that the house needed some kind of foundational repair. It needed to be put on piers under the ground, and nobody ever disclosed it. And the agent knew about it on the front end. And when the agent visited with clients at the home, they asked about the disclosure, walked down the disclosure with the agent about the various issues, and the agent said nothing about it. We take that case to the Real Estate Commission because there was about $20,000 in repairs that needed to be done, and we didn't even get a hearing on it. Never knew why, never found out why. The Real Estate Commission dismissed the complaint.
That's crazy. Mm-hmm. So what happens in that? Okay, now we're on a whole other thing though, but what happens, I'm sorry, before we move on,
yes,
you need to rule on this.
Okay.
Because I'm assuming, this is my vote, I'll let you be the judge.
Okay.
That's why you get the gavel, even though you're not
really a judge.
Full disclosure, he's an attorney. Full disclosure. But this being said, if it's you and you're ruling on this situation, let's say the felony is, I don't know, because I don't want to say anything bad. Possession of a controlled substance.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Or drinking and driving, something like that. And it's been 5 years, and he's executed 28 transactions perfectly, no issues.
I like their ruling.
12 months. Suspended.
Yep. 12 months suspension.
Tell the truth.
12 months suspended for lying to us about it.
Yep.
No punishment for it actually occurring. You've already been punished for that.
Do you disagree that he never gets a broker's license?
I think he never gets a broker's license.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, I
feel bad for him. I think it depends on what kind of broker. Principal broker, maybe not, but
maybe, but there's a whole other side of this when you have, because we don't know what the felony is.
Exactly.
We don't know
what
it is.
But we're assuming that it's probably
if it's a financial felony
over.
of some kind, then that's a big problem with the handling of the money in the trust account and all that stuff.
Right, but rebuttal, we're assuming that he got in trouble for a controlled substance or a DUI. So if it was something like that, would you reconsider brokerability?
Yes.
Okay.
But is that the same?
And it was 10 years earlier.
But is that the same as a financial crime? If you've got someone who has a drug problem, I could foresee taking client trust funds for some other purpose.
That's true. That's why you're the lawyer.
Oh, yeah.
I'm over here just give him another chance. Oh, now currently you're the judge. Rule away, will you? Are you in agreement? What say you?
I think that they got it right, but I think that we would need to know the specific felony to determine whether or not there was ever going to be a broker's license issued to this person.
Okay. I accept your ruling. Okay. So we were just talking about this, though, when it comes down to this complaint breakdown. How much investigation, because we did talk about they do investigation. There's an investigator. There's all these different people and stuff. What level of investigation do you know happens with this kind of stuff? Because I could totally see a PI in a car following someone around and being like, oh, there she is. She's showing that house without a license.
Yeah, the only ones I've ever been involved in were a lot of document exchanges, communication. I want all your emails back and forth. Yeah, want all the documentation. Want any past history. If I had an inspection done on the property, they would want a copy of that. In that situation of the home I was discussing that had the foundation issues, if we had an engineer go out, they would want that report from the engineer of what was going on with the property. And then it's very likely that they take statements, witness statements. So a deposition, for those that don't know, a deposition is like an under oath. If I was sitting here asking Jamie questions, the Real Estate Commission investigators do that same thing. It's just not a recorded statement with a court reporter present.
So is it on the phone? Because, it's interestingly enough, a lot of the discovery done for your stuff is on Zoom call, or you can do a deposition on a Zoom call these days. I don't know if that started. Did that start
the ones
during
I've
COVID?
been involved in, the investigator came to my office.
I was about to say it because I didn't know if that was a COVID thing. Has that, as far as, did that start? Did you ever used to do depositions on Zoom?
Nope.
Okay, so that was
COVID started that.
Okay.
I don't really like it, but COVID started it.
Well, it's probably hard for you because for me, I'll be told, if you don't know about a deposition, and here's another thing, I'm going to plug expert testimony every time that we talk.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, the knowledge and experience that you get as an agent to do it is incredible. And it's scary because you're in there under oath and you're answering questions about your expertise. And sometimes you're like, ooh, and you choke on your words or you get nervous because you're trying to represent your client. You're trying to get the right thing done for them, make sure that they are either, rewarded for what's going on or that they get their message across if they're in there in a lawsuit. So all that being said, I guess as far as the discovery goes and doing a deposition, if it's going to be online, it's going to take away a lot of that inflection. It's going to take away body language. It's going to take away whether or not they're nervous or how confident they are.
I don't think you would ever do it via phone, just phone.
I was going to object.
But Zoom video is what it's gone to now. A lot of places
probably going to do the same thing now.
I just don't trust it because you could have. I could have a camera right here in front of me, and I could have a lawyer sitting on the other side of the table holding up answer cards.
I never even thought of that.
But that's
a great
really,
point.
Then you would see their eyeballs like constantly looking up at something, and you'd probably know something was going on. But you could have somebody kicking them under the table or something, like kick twice for yes, kick two for once.
They
for
could
no.
just be eating M&Ms every time I eat an M&M. That's great.
Yeah, blue means yes, green means no.
This is exactly why we're doing this show right here. So those of you who are playing your little games, watch out. We got you pegged. Yeah. No more Zoom interviews.
When I do Zoom depositions now, I make there be strict rules that there be like a camera that shows the whole room all at once, and that people be separated out at the table apart, that all documents be exchanged beforehand, things like that.
So here's the thing about this, though. When you're doing this kind of discovery and you're being investigated, it's really terrifying because it doesn't even matter if you've done anything wrong. I'm just telling you that when you go through a complaint at the Real Estate Commission, they're going to investigate every piece of it, whether you're wrong or not. And so I think it's good to know that your governing licensing authority is doing a good job of that, but that it's going to feel like accusatory, you know what I mean, a little bit, because they're trying to get down to what happened, who knew about it, when did it happen, when did they know about it, and what are we going to do to remedy the situation. And so it kind of feels, terrifying. It feels terrifying. My
experience with them is that they trust their agents to the extent that they find something that makes them not trust their agent.
Exactly, but it takes a while to get. That's what I'm saying. It takes something special to get an investigator call you and come to a meeting. Like, you're not going to get a whole breakdown of all of this unless there's something that the commission deems worthy of their time and energy to go and investigate, because it's not something that they just want to do for fun. They don't want to chase us around. And there's too many of us. There's too many of them.
That's part of the problem too. We talked about it a little bit on the last episode.
Okay, and so that
requirements, but
and here's the thing. So we're gonna bring up barriers of entry. I was gonna wait, but we're gonna bring it up because a lot of the complaints I've read today, almost every single one of them, and the ones we talked about, but also the ones I've read, have mostly been character based and in a jiffy of getting a license really quickly and or making an application to go from one place to another without having taken the time to sit down and really thoroughly look into this person. And I say that to say, and I just want to go through them real quick.
If the barriers to entry were higher, you wouldn't have this problem.
Well, but here's a reason why, like, without even being, because I don't want anyone to be like, oh, well, they just won't, they don't like anything we do here. The thing is, we do. And when it comes down to the barriers of entry, I simply felt like, okay, I'll just pull it up while we're here. Because when you go to get a license, new applicant, we're on the real estate side. What you need is to have reached the age of majority, which is 18. I hope somebody can send that soundbite to my 13-year-old son. The age of majority is 18. Successfully complete 60 classroom hours, of which 30 classroom hours must be in the basic principles of real estate and accredited post-secondary school or organization licensed by the AREC, short for Arkansas Real Estate Commission. Submit the application, pass the licensing exam, and send the proper forms and fees to the commission no later than 90 days after passing the examination, and then follow that up with post-license education, which I believe is 18 hours? No, it's like 60. It's like the same thing, I think. Okay, it's pre-license. Sorry. 45? 60-hour certificate has no expiration, and you do post-licensing as soon as you're within 1 year. The ARC post-license requirement for a new salesperson is 18 classroom hours and must be taken by the end of 6 months. So it's not 12 months, it's 18 and it's 6 months after the date they're individually licensed. So walk that back. That's 60 classroom hours on the front end, okay? So just basic principles. I don't have to have anything else.
Right.
And then once I get that, then I go and take a test. If I pass that test, then I can bring this to the commission with my fees and my application. They'll do a background check, they'll fingerprint me, and then I'm licensed.
And then you do 18 more hours within 6 months.
Okay.
And you're off and running.
I feel like devil's advocate right now that I'm doing this on the show.
Wow.
But Well, I'm just saying because I always have talked about it, but I haven't ever really sat here and pulled them up. And the difference between the guidelines are really different.
I mean, it's a problem, but it's an economic problem as well, need-based between how many agents do we need out there to service inventory, client base.
Well, right now we need one agent because we have no houses.
Yeah, there's nothing. About 3 agents could handle the entire state right now. But
Casey Jones, like, say it again.
Typical market. Typical market.
I mean, typical market, this is a situation. You don't need 10% of your population to be real estate agents. I will say that at the end of the day, when you look at the number of real estate agents, it does come down to a barrier of entry thing. Now, on the opposite side, am I saying that, it's a smarter idea to have very, very, very high barriers to entry? Maybe not.
Probably
not. Because I know that we can see right now, what's the shortage of appraisers that we have.
It's not that complicated.
What?
It's not that complicated that it would need to have the barrier of entry of what an appraiser has to do.
I don't think so. I mean, I know that you don't mean that towards me because I'm super smart, but that's not what we're doing here. We're talking about getting the initial education, right? So
right.
I'm finding all the upgrades. I'm like, where's the original application? So I know for a fact, though, that there's a log involved with this, right? So what happens with an appraiser is you have to actually be supervised the entire time. And that's something I think that is strangely missing from the real estate side, because somebody else taking the time and energy to put into you requires accountability on their part. And they know, like, okay, she worked for XYZ. She's going to be built around that kind of skill set and that kind of demeanor. And that's kind of the way her methodology is going to work based on how she's trained, right? That's how it works for me, because I'm learning from different people who did it first, and then they're passing a skill set down. Now, that also creates bad habits generationally. But this mentorship kind of thing is a little bit more of a handhold. And don't you feel like there's no handholding on the real estate side? There's not.
And you could have something even like with the handholding, certain number of hours with a licensee, with a current licensee, and then a letter of recommendation from that licensee at the conclusion of your hours would cut down on a lot of this character problem.
It really would. And then this is all the new rules too. There's a lot of them. So I'm trying to find all of these required experience. Here it is. So to go from like my license to a higher level of license, what experience I already have,
You're talking about your appraiser's license.
I would have to upgrade. But to get the initial, oh my goodness. So the experience initially is 2,500 hours. Certified general. Wow. Okay. Sorry. So to get here, you need 2,500 hours of supervised experience. That's over a 24-month period. So this means that the entire time and when I say this, I want you to know this is not me like screen sharing for an hour and recording it and like having it that easy to record. It's how many minutes did you spend on the cost approach, the site analysis, the land value, the sales comparison approach, the income approach. Did you touch that? What's the remaining economic life? How long did it take you to figure that out?
I'm just doing math in my head. That's like 30 times the number of hours to become a real estate agent.
And that's the experience. The other part, and that's the thing I was really looking for, is once you're an appraiser, it's like apparently you can't read the website for just the initial application. Yeah. I'm finding all the upgrades.
You're learning on the air, right?
I am learning on the air. And I'm telling you, it's been so long since I got my license, I haven't even looked back at this. But I can tell you right now that just state license to become a cert general, but that's commercial, there's an additional 150 hours when you're already 150 hours into your license, because you have 150 hours initially of education. That's in comparison to the 60 you get on the other side. So we're looking at twice plus 30.
We're up to 34 times.
All right. So this is why I like that you're a lawyer, because math is also part of your strong suit. And math is part of my strong suit because I took statistics, modeling, and finance to become a real estate appraiser. But at the end of the day, it's a very specific niched career that you have to be brought into. And I made a post about this the other day on Facebook because I saw in my memories that it had been a certain number of years since I was licensed in the state of Arkansas. And I thought when I moved here, the average age of the appraiser is 64 years old. And over time, it was just getting to the point where, and currently, there are counties in our state that do not have appraisers. And so appraisers are traveling from one location to another, and geographically the incompetence is more possible because of that travel, in my opinion. That being said, when these barriers are so high we can't get people to do it, and these barriers are so low we can't stop them from doing it, there's imbalance.
Gotta be a middle ground.
Right. And that's where it's like, challenge me. But the reason I wanted to start a show called I Hate Real Estate with one of the greatest legal minds in Arkansas is because it's a trendy name, but at the end of the day, we're here to the public is to be they want to trust us, right? And they need to be on notice that this is who you're dealing with. This is how much education they have. Vet them, understand who they are, but also don't question somebody who has multiple years of experience and is just trying to do their job from a valuation standpoint as well. And I think some of this is a lot of perception misunderstanding by the consumer. And if the consumer has more understanding and we can continually week after week add value to them with, by the way, this is how you handle that, then maybe we can kind of turn the tide a little bit on this crazy market, which is just full of crazy complaints. I mean,
don't hire a random real estate agent. Don't look up somebody in a phone book and call them. Everybody knows a real estate agent, just about. Everybody's had, well, it doesn't matter if you know them or not. Everyone's had experience with a real estate agent, it seems like, at some point or another, small, big. Get a referral from somebody. Get somebody.
Call a good attorney.
Yes.
A real estate attorney is the perfect person.
The attorneys know people. It doesn't have to be me. It can be any attorney. The attorneys know the people that are good, the people that they can't recommend.
Well, and you have, we went to the website. That's where we found all this information. I go on website. It's public information. This isn't something that's hidden. At the end of the day, it's very important that you're protected. But in this market particularly.
There's a roster search on the website, on the Real Estate Commission's website. You can go on the roster search. If you have a particular agency that you like, because you see their sign in your neighborhood all the time, call that. There's a designation on everybody's name. So if you look up a big real estate company that has 6 or 7 pages worth of names, find the one that says PB in front of it. That's the principal broker. Or an EB would be an executive broker. Call one of those people and ask them, which agent at your office should I use to do this? And they'll give you a recommendation.
Yeah, or they'll be like, me. I'll do it.
Even better.
It would be even better. And that's the one thing that's really cool about, I would say, the market that we do have a lot of great agents. And like you said, there's a lot of wild things going on right now, and you're seeing things. The reason that Camel and Groom stays so busy is because there are a lot of mishappenings in real estate, which is, obviously our job to report on. But I would say if you're an agent out there and you want to be the very best agent that you can be, go get more education, go get more knowledge, go get more value so that when a consumer asks you, why should I work with you? You have a whole list of concrete reasons and things that you've done to make yourself a better professional. And then that way they're not doing the roster search to see if you're licensed. They're looking around to see how can they get a hold of them.
A lawsuit that we recently won, you were involved in it, had $100,000 worth of damages when all was said and done. And that was primarily because a real estate agent didn't properly advise the client. The client asked a question of, should I put this on a disclosure? The real estate agent said no. And if the real estate agent had said yes, which is what the answer should have been, we wouldn't have been there.
Yeah, and it was the wrong answer. So
when
it all is fair in love and real estate, but remember, disclose, disclose, disclose.
That's right.
All right. Now, you don't have to rule on anything there at the end, except for, hey, you know what? I suggest a ruling. What is the thing when you suggest it to court? May I approach?
Yeah.
Okay. I suggest that we find a way to level out this barrier to entry in our industry. Okay. So let's start that project.
All right. Let's do it.
We're
going to start the project right now.
Okay. All right, haters. The gavel has spoken. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of I Hate Real Estate. Be safe out there, and remember, always get an inspection.
Exactly.
I'm Jamie Taylor. Thanks, Kendall.
Uh-huh.
See you next time.